especially from St. Paul and Ramsey County at large, and trying to make community engagement and make our community be more visible, and to talk to the leaders what the community needs and what do we expect from them, and we'd like to elect them, and at the same time we'd like to hold them accountable for what they do and what they don't.
Today is a civic engagement for Ramsey County with the East African community members, with Ethiopian, Somali, and Eritrean communities, and various community leaders and business owners to learn about civic engagement and what's important to their community. We're hoping to have Melvin Carter and Aaron Murphy to attend this meeting, and we hope to have a great dialogue.
Hi, they say, yeah, this is a great occasion. I believe it's for the first time bringing in East African community together to talk about local issues. Although this dream has been shared by late Paul Winston, who was very friend of immigrants. He was a champion of immigrant issues with the Twin Cities. So everybody is just an extension of his dream and his wish.
I'm here today just to support these two and the work that they do in the community. I met Haile 2020 during the election season, and we've done some community organizing work, and I've learned more about the Ethiopian community here in my neighborhood. I live in the area, and so I'm just here to help engage the conversation with our elected officials and do what I can to support these two.
I like to listen to what they have to say. Might be something interesting. So, like to listen.
I'm here to enjoy the partnership and fellowship and to discuss about election. Who are our elected officials? Why do we elect them? Why is it important for us to know about them and them to know about our concerns? That's all.
Thank you.
Wanted to be with community and talk about civic engagement and voter turnout and just making sure that we're all engaged with the democratic process. And my name is Amani Makaso, and I'm actually a candidate for Congress here in the 4th Congressional District.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Disparities. I'm the Executive Director of the Ethiopian Community in Minnesota. So today our community invited by Mr. Haile and to come to this event. So we are waiting whatever
Thank you.
is happening. Thanks so much.
Here because we want to support our senators. We are from the African community, so that's why we're here. We want them to know that we exist, and we want to support them, and we want to get support from them too. Thank you.
I'm here to see my representatives, state and the mayor, and I'm going to listen to them, I'm going to hear from them about what is their agenda, and what is their agenda, especially for people like me, migrants, those newcomers, and those people who used to live here in America, especially in Minnesota. And also,
We came here to and then we have at the same time we have a business, so we need to
Thank you.
From Ethiopian community, so try to support my community.
Participating with I got from Facebook, somebody told me the city of St. Paul mayor is here, and the other two officials
I did.
are representative of the area, and to discuss community things with them, and I listen from them what they are going to say, and how we work together, because I see now different community members are here, like Somalian, Ethiopian, and the others group too. So we can discuss with them about our community. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
it's very meaning to have community to support them and also our community. That's why.
Senator, how are you? How are you doing?
And everybody here who is attending the civic engagement for Ramsey County. It's an honor to have the East African community members and the representative, the mayor, Melvin Carter and Aaron Murphy. Unfortunately, Dave Pinto was not able to make it because he's sick, but I'm excited for us to have a civic dialogue and what's important to the community, and also for the representative to tell us a little bit about what they've been doing and what they hope to accomplish in the future. So I want to bring in Melanie to do the introduction.
Hi there, my name is Melanie Hazlip and I live just 2 miles from here, not far. Thank you all for being here. We are thrilled to have Mayor Carter here and Senator Murphy. They are both very passionate about civic engagement work. Mayor Carter has been our mayor since 2018, and he's taken his passion for civic engagement to train activists and campaigns since in over 30 states. And he always says that in order to build a city that works for all of us, we all must do the work. So he understands how important it is for all of us here in this room to be engaged in the process. Senator Murphy has been our senator since 2020, but she's not new to the community at all. She's been a representative for quite some time before that, and she has countless events to try to engage community members in the process, making herself very accessible. She knows that we all need to be a part of it in order to build our bright future together. So we're just thrilled to have them both here to discuss this civic engagement issues that are important to you, community issues that are important to you. So thank you.
We want to have different pieces, so like the way we plan this civic engagement is for the representatives to come and tell us a little bit about themselves, what they've been working on, and what's important to them. And after that, I would like to invite community leaders, business leaders, nonprofit leaders who knows the important issue for East African community members. I know there's Ethiopian community leaders here, Eritrean community, Somali, but also there's within that, you know, there's different people who identify with different ethnicity, Oromo, Gambela, whatnot. So I want you guys to be open about who you are, what you guys do, what's important to you, and to have this opportunity and to discuss, and hopefully we can solve some of the issues that we have. Thank you, and I would like to invite Melvin Carter and Senator Aaron Murphy up here and to let us know.
We have a bunch of information in different languages here about the election. You can find your polling place, what's on your ballot, anything you need to know about the election that's coming up in 1 week.
It is so good to be here. It's a pleasure to be here among all of you in this space. It's certainly a pleasure to be here with one of my friends, mentors, teachers, and kind of partners in this work, Senator Aaron Murphy, who, as you mentioned, is absolutely no stranger to this city, this community, our state capital. My name is Melvin Carter, and I'm the mayor of St. Paul. And, you know, I joke with folks often that I'm not complaining. I love my job. And many of the things that have happened in the last 2 years, I didn't know I was signing up to be a part of all of that. I didn't know when I ran for mayor. None of us knew that we were running to be the mayor during a global pandemic. We didn't know that we would see numbers of people in our community experiencing homelessness rise tenfold. We didn't know that we would see record numbers of unemployment in our city, that we would see families who are used to just working and paying the bills suddenly worried about feeding their children and having enough toilet paper, things like that. We didn't know that George Floyd would be murdered in Minneapolis next door, that we would see one night of all the destruction that we saw in civil unrest, or that the Twin Cities would suddenly become the global epicenter of this reckoning on race and racism. We didn't know. But here's what we did know. We knew that St. Paul is a city of enormous opportunity. And we knew that too often, people who look like you and me end up living in the shadows of the tall buildings that we build in this city. We knew that in order to set St. Paul on a better course, that meant setting us all up on a better course. We knew that as St. Paul's economy rises, as our buildings get taller downtown, and we grow jobs, that it doesn't really matter if people don't have a little bit easier time paying the rent and putting food on the table for their families. And all I'm saying is, my grandfather used to say that if experience won't teach you, then nothing will. And what we've learned, I pray, in the last 20 months or so, is that as long as one single member of our community can't afford a stable home to shelter in place, can't afford to go straight to the doctor when they get sick, or can't afford to take a week off of work to quarantine or care for a sick child, then we're all less safe. And this moment, I think, is demanding us to say, are we in it together or not? I say we're in it together. I think St. Paul says we're in it together. We've raised the minimum wage because we're in it together. And here's the thing, and I want to get out of here, I want to just tell you this, and we can take questions. I want to ask Senator Murphy to tell you what she's been working on too. But here's what I've learned. The model of city building that we've all inherited centers around really two things. It's a public safety strategy that essentially says we're going to find the bad guys in town and get them out, chase them out of town. And an economic strategy that finds prosperity and opportunity and potential in some other town and tries to get it here. It's always betting against ourselves. We're always betting against time and time again, we're betting against ourselves. And all we've been trying to do every single day of the last 4 years is say we're going to bet on ourselves. We're going to bet on our children. We're going to bet on our businesses. We're going to bet on our families. We're going to bet on our workers. We're going to bet on our entrepreneurs. We're going to bet on our city employees. We're going to bet on our police officers. We're going to bet on our firefighters. We are going to bet on our own community every chance we get. So when people ask you why we raised the minimum wage, it's because we're betting on ourselves. When people ask you why we created a partnership to start every child born in St. Paul with $50 in a college savings account, it's because we're betting on ourselves. When they ask you, wait a minute, why'd you get rid of late fees in the library? Why are we doing this guaranteed income thing that has low-income families with small babies and says, here's $500 a month just to help you pay the bills, or here's $300 a month to help you pay the rent? Why are we doing all of these things? It's because we are betting on ourselves every single chance we get. I will tell you, I am running for re-election for two reasons. One, because I'm very proud of all that we've done. I'm very proud of all those things that we just said. I'm very proud of doubling youth jobs funding, of tripling free programs in our recreation centers for our young people. I'm proud of all the things that we've done to bet on ourselves.
Excuse me, man.
And I'm running for re-election because it is so clear in all the crises that we face today and that we've faced together over these last 2 years, that work is not done, that work is only beginning. That work can only happen if we do it together, if we continue the way that we've pushed this city forward, and if we continue to do that, I believe that we can make a better city for our children, and I believe that we can set the course, that we can show the way for cities around our state, our country, and our world, because that's exactly what we're doing. I'm Melvin Carter, and I'm running for re-election. Thank you for being here tonight. And I always tell folks that what's more important than who your mayor is and who your state senator is and who your governor is how your mayor, your state senator, and your governor are working together. And let me tell you, I'm about to pass the microphone to someone who I know very, very well, because we get a chance to work together literally all the time. We get a chance to be on the phone with each other late at night, sometimes over exciting things, sometimes over challenging things. But we're working together every single day to make sure that St. Paul and all of St. Paul has the things that we need. This is somebody I've learned a motto from that is, in times like these, we can't afford a tippy-toe politics. We can't afford a super careful politics, because you know that works against us every time. And so I want to thank you and just join you in welcoming my good friend, my big sister, my role model in so many ways in this work, Senator Erin Murphy.
Thank you, Melvin Carter. You know, and I'm so happy to be here, first of all. I am Erin Murphy. I am a mom and a registered nurse, and I serve in the Minnesota Senate. And I was so deeply excited when you invited me tonight to spend some time together talking really about us and what we are able to accomplish together in building a future that we believe in for all of us. And I am thinking right now about when Mayor Carter was first elected, and he took what he is often, you'll hear candidates running for office and you'll hear them make promises. And he promised that he was going to engage and bring the community along, not only in decision making, but really in the governing of the city. And he put that into practice at the very start of setting up his administration. And I've seen him carry that through in these last 4 years. And we're here today to talk together about civic engagement. And when I hear the word civic engagement, what I hear is our power together in our communities, in this state and in this country, to build something that matters to each of us, that we're included in. Our well-being, our prosperity, the opportunity for ourselves and for our children. When I hear civic engagement, that's what I think about. And that's why I'm excited to be here. And it's really a pleasure to share a stage with Melvin Carter, because that's what he is all about. I grew up in a family that taught me that politics was important. I'm from a big Irish family. My family would get together and play cards. The adults would talk about politics. They taught me it was something that was important. And we're living in a time right now where lots of people think politics is something to walk away from, that it's cynical. It's not for us. It won't serve us. It's not serving us. And I think lots of people serving in public office deserve that. And maybe the body politics does too. But I am in office and decided to run again for public office after 12 years in the Minnesota House, because I believe more now than I did when I started, that if we want to have a democracy that serves us, a politics that is about us, we have to fight for it. And I want to fight for it, because I do believe and have seen over and over again that if we don't think and limit ourselves to bill language that's being heard in committees inside the Capitol, but instead if we're expansive, we're curious, and we're in community together, we together then can understand the problems that we face, and we together can define what are the best solutions, and then we together can bring our voices, our action, our power to bear on making sure that the solutions reflect all of us. It's not a pipe dream at all. It is something that I've seen over and over again, and I believe now more than ever, when we're hopeful rather than cynical, when we're open rather than closed, when we dream big about the things that we think we can accomplish, we can actually drive ourselves in that direction, and more people will join us because they want that too. I am currently working on a variety of issues, but the one front and center for me right now is frontline worker pay. You know, we have been through, all of us together now, almost 2 years of a global pandemic. I am a registered nurse. I teach at St. Kate's. I didn't think that in my lifetime I'd experience what we're experiencing. I was a little kid before computers, and we had encyclopedias, and I used to read about pandemics of our past, whether it was the flu or polio or measles or smallpox, fascinated by the ways in which we decided together that we were going to solve that problem. And this has been a very, very hard, almost 2 years for us. And I think that we could step back and say, you know what, and I think a lot of Minnesotans are thinking about, my life right now is full of challenge. I got to just pay attention to that. I'm not going to worry too much about the next election. I might not vote because I got a lot of things to worry about here. Make sure I'm putting food on the table. I have a safe place to live. There's a decent school for my kids. And I can teach my kids the values that we have grown up with together. There's adequate health care. Right? People are dealing with a lot right now. And it would be easy to step back, but I feel, and I hope you do too, and maybe after tonight more of us together will feel compelled to step into that space together to lead. Because there's a real opportunity. Out of every crisis is an opportunity. There's an opportunity for us to move forward together, to build together, and to believe in what is possible. And I'll just close with this. You have taught me, people have taught me, Minnesotans have taught me that it is right to believe in what is possible. It is right to believe in what we're capable of. And I believe deeply in us and what we can do together. And I hope with some time, and as we get to know each other, you believe in me too. Because I am here to fight for you, for me, and for our future. Thank you so much for including me.
What I wanted to ask our leaders is, we as an immigrant living in Twin City or Minneapolis or St. Paul or in Minnesota in general, we have challenges. Part of challenges we have is to level ourselves to come to a level of middle class. It's very difficult. Some of us have barriers of language, some of us have academic problems, some of us have a number of things that are barriers to reach us, to get us to reach somewhere, to live an American dream or make a life. This one involved also has getting us involved in an election, be able to elect appropriate leaders or leaders that serve us. If we would engage with leaders like you and let our community know that there's a leader coming up and we need to vote for them, it is something you need to educate us. Send some people to our small community and educate us about those. Then when we know the values, we'll be able to vote for leaders that we know and serve the community. And especially for South Sudanese community, because of the majority of South Sudanese community, they live in southern part of Minnesota. The majority of them live in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and some of them live here in St. Paul. And by nature, I'm a community leader. South Sudanese American Community Association, I'm a leader of it. I've been running that community, but it's not active because I'm also running for my life in America. All we know, we work every day. So, Senator and Mayor, I'm asking you humbly to find a mechanism to reach to small community, be part of Americans. Whatever platform you create, give it to us. I look forward to see that from you, and we look forward to see you again in office. God bless.
When Donald Trump was running for office, he said a term that I hadn't heard of before, and that was self-deport. He said, essentially, we can make life so hard for people who have come to America that they'll just leave voluntarily. And that is such a dangerous perspective. And our perspective is the opposite. When I said we're all in it together, I meant it. And from a city level, it's so important. Because, for example, we need to know that every single community member knows that their city is here to support them. I do that for you, but I do it for me. I'm in danger if my neighbor doesn't think they can call 911 when they smell smoke or when they see something wrong on our block. I'm in danger. My children are in danger. So our first challenge is making sure that every single member of our community can act, and I took off my mask because I want you to be able to see my face as I say this, that every single member of our community, regardless of immigration status, can access every single thing our city government has to offer. When we created college savings accounts, We created the whole structure in such a way that we can do it for every single child born in our community. That's important to us. But even that is not enough. When I got elected, that guy was in office in the presidency. And we said, you know what? We have to create a legal defense fund for immigrants and refugees in our community who are being targeted by their own federal government. So we did that. We opened an Office of Immigration Services in our city attorney's office for the first time to say we want to be intentional citywide about how we protect people's rights. And just last month, and this is something we just announced, so you might not have heard about it yet, but please write this down and make sure whoever needs to know about it knows about it. We launched an interest-free, a zero-interest loan program so that permanent residents in St. Paul can apply for citizenship with a zero-interest loan to help make sure that's accessible for all of us. And I want to tell you, we partnered with Affinity Plus Credit Union. And I asked them, how many can we do? How are you going to pay for the zero interest? And they said, one, we're not worried about the interest because you know what? When we make loans like these, people pay them back. That's about investing in ourselves and believing in ourselves. And we all said, you know what else? We're not just doing this for the people who take out those loans. Our whole community is better when people have a route to citizenship. And we know that that application costs about $700 per person. And we have people in our community who for $700 per person could access the ability to open up their business or to get a job or to go to college and all of those things, that all those promises that citizenship provides. So we want to help make sure that that's the case as well. We're pushing on this issue and we're going to make sure that the promise and the prosperity, I meant what I said when I said it does not matter if St. Paul's economy is growing. It does not matter if St. Paul's buildings are getting taller and the skyline is getting better. If all of our families and all of our children can't be better off because of it, that absolutely has to include our new American families. That absolutely has to include our African immigrant families. Because guess what? St. Paul, you're not a visitor to this city. You're a creator of this city. St. Paul is who we are because you're here, and we want it to be even more rich, even more diverse, even more multilingual, even more international. That's what's going to give all of our children and our entire community a competitive advantage for the future.
Caught on my glasses. Timothy, my brother's name is Timothy.
Wow, nice.
When I look around this room, I see Minnesota. I see Minnesotans. So, yes, I would love to come to your community. I would love to continue to build Minnesota's future in our communities and with you. But I want to say this, and I say it knowing that I'm going to be adding an extra job to your plate, and I know we're all busy. It is important to engage in elections. It is one of the powers that we have. It's not the only power that we have. And even if you don't have yet the power to vote, you have the power to influence, you have the power to reach into the community and make sure that the community is organized, it's bringing its voice. So, the election is important, and I hope, we do the right thing next week in St. Paul and in Minneapolis. But our work doesn't end there. And the good news about that, even though it's a little more work on our plate, the good news about that is we are creating together our future. We're making our choices on election day, but that is not the end, that's the beginning. And then together we work to create that future. One last thing, Timothy, you mentioned the middle class. And I grew up in a working family, a working class family. My dad worked and built cars at a GM plant. He had a union. He had a good middle class salary. I grew up in a working class, middle class family. We are, because of what we've experienced right now, in a moment in time when our work matters more than it ever has. So let's take advantage of that. And let's make sure that our work pays by mobilizing and organizing us. A lot of people have left the workforce because of COVID. A lot of people have left the workforce because they're ready to retire. We don't have a worker shortage, we have a wage shortage. Let's fix that. That's what we want to do. That's the American dream, and I'm for that, and I want to do that with you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I came here because I've been invited by one of my good friends, Mr. Petrus. And thank you so much for inviting me here. And it's great to be here, especially with these two great leaders that moving and shaking the city and the state. So thank you for leading us. We look like this. In these people, there is a diversity that you cannot identify. Always recognizing every single person who is in your jurisdiction is so important, because we are raising kids, because we live here, because we care about this city, we care about this state, also we care about this nation at large. However, in these cities, sometimes there is disconnection. It's not because of you only. We have a problem as well. Yet, as a leader, it is a great responsibility that you carry on even to the next elected official. Guess what? Last summer we have lost a beloved, the most beloved artist Hachalu Hundessa, when we were protesting for a week, almost for a month. As a leader, we have very few people who show up and say what happened. Aren't we belong to this city? Aren't we belong to this state? Aren't we belong to humanity? That is injustice, that is not right, and that needs to be corrected. That is my message for you guys. As immigrants, as diaspora, we need to be united too. The leaders be confused. Every single person go to somewhere, some office say that, oh, I represent this person in this community. That doesn't work. You know, we need to be united. We need to air everything together, and we need to demand every single right together. If not, we're just wasting our time. So it's great to be here, and really, you know, moved with your passion and with your work, Senator. I follow you, by the way, especially you were so connected with the people every in the morning when we were in a stressful situation back in 2020. I follow you every single morning. I enjoy it. Thank you for doing that. And I greatly appreciate that. The other thing that I would like to say is that we reach out to you guys. Sometimes there is a connection between you and your employees. So there is a little barrier, so I have to stop here, and we have to work on that. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
አንደኛስ ሀውስ አለኝ እና በዛ ደግሞ ይሄንን ነገር እንዲስተካከል ፈልጋለሁ። ሲንግል ማም ሀውስ ያላቸው በጣም በችግር ውስጥ ሊኖሩ ይችላሉ። ቢኮዝ ኮቪድ በተለያየ ነገር ስትረስፉል ሆና እንደዛ ውስጥ ነው ያለው። ሁለት ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያ ኮሚኒቲ የለንም ነው ምናወራው አብረን ምን ትልልቅ ነው ሽማግሌዎች አሮጊቶች እንዲወጣቶች ምናወራው ኮሚኒቲ ያስፈልገናል። ለዛ ነው የመጣሁት እኔ የተባታችሁ ምክንያቱም እኔ የመጣሁት ኢትዮጵያ ኮሚኒቲ የለንም። ዳስ እውነቱን ለመነጋገር ኮሚኒቲ ቦታ እንዲሰጠን ነው። አሁን እነሱ የተመረጡት እኔ እንዲያሰጡን ነው የመጣሁት ለሌላ ጉዳይ አልመጣሁም።
And that's one of the main issues that she's worried about, because they don't have a place where the elderly, the family community, they could gather and discuss on civic engagement, and even for mental health, why not? So those are the two things that's important to her.
We have seen before COVID, we've seen rents skyrocket. And there's research that shows that the rents go up on black and brown families a lot faster than the rents go up on white families. and it's a crisis that impacts our community on so many levels. Our teachers, I talk to teachers all the time, we have children in our public schools who switch schools 6 times in one school year because that's how often their family is moving. We in St. Paul, we lost 5 people last winter just because they didn't have a warm place to sleep. And this is why we're pushing so hard on affordable housing. This is why we're pushing so hard on helps. This is why we created, I kind of alluded to it earlier, this program that says, look, for low-income families or school-age children, we created a program that says, here's $300 a month to just help with the rent and just help stay in one space. That all doesn't always help our homeowners like you're talking about. So one of the things that we have in front of the City Council right now is a proposal to at least help out with property taxes, because our property taxes are going up and we're doing what we can to try to make sure that they're stabilized, but we know that that's creating a challenge for people as well. This is one of the things that we have a rent stabilization question that's on the ballot here for us this year. But then 2, we're having a big conversation about density in St. Paul, about how high we can build, about just building bigger things. We're a city that's growing. We're growing so fast that when you drive into the city and it says St. Paul population, our actual population is 20,000 people higher than those signs say. We are approaching an all-time high population in our city right now, and we have 2 decades of growth projected in front of us. And what that means is we have to start right now. We do not have a single day. We have to start right now, preparing our city, redesigning our city to serve thousands more families than we've ever had before. Or else we're gonna see that math that you were just talking about, that crisis that you were just talking about, just get harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And you know, it'll get harder on families of color first. It'll get harder on it'll get hardest on low-income families. So that's something that's why we're pushing so hard in that way. You're gonna see in a matter of weeks, a big proposal come out of my office that I'm going to propose on affordable housing using using the resources that we have available from the federal government for COVID. And I will tell you this, we have a lot of resources available from the federal government for COVID. And one of the things that I've told my staff is when we bring proposals, they have to be big. And if we're bringing proposals that feel reasonable, that feel like we can do this, that feel, realistic, that means we're not thinking big enough. We have to do big work. We have to make big investments, and we have to make sure, like I said before, that our families like you, that our families in our communities, that all of our families in our neighborhoods can afford to live in those spaces. It's not good. I'm from our Rondo community in St. Paul. And I don't know if you know about the history of Old Rondo, but that's the thriving, historic African-American community that was bulldozed to build the freeway, I-94. And there are some people who think that's progress if we just get low-income families out of town and bring in higher-income families, and we have more housing and we have more people, but it's done at the expense of our children, it's done at the expense of our families, and we won't accept that. So as Senator Murphy said, I agree. Look, we have an election day coming up. I'm running for re-election, and I tell people every day that none of the most important things that ever happen in a community happen on election day. They happen after the election day. They happen between election days. And as much as I'm asking y'all for y'all help next week, we're gonna have to work together in City Hall every week for the next few years to make sure that we're landing not just speeches and press releases on this stuff, but that we're landing the policy and that we're landing the investments that we deserve to actually make the world easier with those regards. So I just wanted to say thank you for saying that, because I think that's really important. It's one of the most significant crises impacting our community right now, and it deserves the type of urgent action that I heard you demanding in your voice. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to talk a little bit about the community center. Yeah, no, that's okay. And I could talk, he's doing such great work on housing, and at the state level, of course, we've got to put more money into housing, because when we have more housing, it takes the pressure off. But to the community center, that is something I've heard from lots of people in the Ethiopian community from this area. And I understand there is, with Representative Pinto, an ongoing discussion about that. And I think that's important. We had talked about right across the street from here. I don't know if that's going to work. But I want you to know that I hear it from the community and I support it. And I understand why it's important for our families, for our kids, and for our elders, for a place to be together, right? For our community to share our time together, but also in terms of our ability to navigate this community together. And the people who live here have been really clear about that. So I'll let you know that I hear you. It's something that I'm working on, and I'd love to work with you on it.
So recently the violence in the city of St. Paul is skyrocketing, and I really can't say I'm scared of driving through the city after 6 p.m. And how do you address that? And the other thing I am here is to advocate for my clients. I work for Ramsey County. I work with low-income families who are struggling because the safety net is not working properly for them, or it's not sufficient to feed their kids and pay for childcare or other assistance. So how do you work with the county government, city government, and the state government to improve the safety net for families with children? And then my third question is, the systematic operation has been there for years, and Ramsey County is one of the most diverse county in the state of Minnesota, next to Minneapolis. So how do you address those racial disparities, inequalities, injustice which triggers this even crime? Because people do crime because of lack of access to jobs, lack of access to economic opportunity. So how do you both address those challenges? Thank you.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, a significant increase all across the country at the same time. And at some level, it's probably unsurprising. Here's why. I started this whole conversation by sharing with you that in the last year, we've seen more people homeless, more people hungry, more people unemployed, and more people disconnected from community, disconnected, socially isolated from one another than ever before. Those have always been the things that drive neighborhood crime. It's because people feel so desperate. It's because people feel so disconnected from community, so disconnected from opportunity and prosperity. And that's why that has gone up. And what angers me, because I'll tell you, we had a quadruple homicide in St. Paul last month. And of the 4 young people that were lost, my family goes back decades with one of those families and generations with another one of those families. The young lady who we lost in a mass shooting a couple weeks ago in St. Paul went to high school with our oldest son. And I think one of the things that makes me different than every other person who held this office is that when we lose someone to gun violence, I know it might be someone who is precious to me, who's connected to me on a personal level. It's impacted my life. I remember being in middle school and waking up and wondering, what's that hole in the wall above my bed? My father lost his 2 closest cousins when he was 25 years old in the 70s. So what that tells me is gun violence has impacted our community for a very, very, very long time. And what it tells me is, if we're gonna solve the problem, it's not gonna be by repeating the same old things that we've been doing for the last 20 or 40 years. It's gonna be by finding a brand new strategy. And that should be obvious too, because the promise that we've been promised is that if we just hire more police officers, if we just build bigger jails and hire tougher lawyers, tougher prosecutors to fill them, then our neighborhoods will be safer. We've done that over and over and over and over and over again, and it's not working. It has not worked for our communities. And all I'm saying is, that's what says we need a broader approach. Now, I've been in conversations, a lot of conversations in the last several weeks about public safety. I've been in some conversations downtown and at City Hall and at the state capitol. And I've been in too many conversations about public safety at funerals and among people who have just lost someone to gun violence. And the crazy thing is that they're two completely different conversations. When we talk to people who are least insulated from gun violence, who have just lost somebody from gun violence, they're always going to say, listen, we got to invest in these young people. We got to take care of each other better. We need community supports. We need people to be able to live with dignity in our community. We need everybody to be able to access the prosperity in our community, whether they're a citizen or not. We need people to not be so desperate in our communities. And I think the problem around public safety is those voices of those moms and those aunties and those sisters and those brothers and those young people and those elders that have said we need a whole new way of being around this have been drowned out by the people downtown who are more insulated from violence, who are more likely to accept a sort of one-dimensional approach, who are more likely to say, we just need more police and bigger jails and tougher prosecutors. The voices in our neighborhoods get drowned out by the important voices. And those important voices have been telling us forever what to do. And I think it's time for us to try to listen to those important voices. So we've created what we call our Community First Public Safety Framework. It's been informed by probably 2,000 St. Paul residents over the past 4 years that essentially centers around saying, listen, when somebody calls 911, we want to bring up the right level of response to them, whether that's a police officer or whether that's a social worker that can actually help them address whatever crisis that brought them to call 911 in the first place. But what happens after somebody calls 911 isn't good enough. I have children. If you were to tell me that our plan to keep my children safe is to make sure somebody goes to jail after something bad happens to them, well, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for my child. It's not good enough for your child. It's not good enough for any child in St. Paul. Am I right? And so what that means is we need a more proactive approach. Research tells us that people in our community who know where they're going to sleep tonight, who know how to feed their children, and who are connected to community are statistically speaking less likely to become either an offender or a victim of crimes. That's why raising the minimum wage and affordable housing and college savings accounts and all these things that we're doing are important to public safety. And research tells us that places, public spaces that are well kept, well lit, well maintained, well designed, well cleaned, that have open sight lines can actually limit opportunities for crime through environmental design. And I say that all just to say that if you show me a person in our city who we're concerned might be involved in violent crime, or if you show me a place in our city where we're concerned some violent crime might happen, I can show you a place or a person in our city who we haven't invested in those ways. So that's our full public safety plan. It's the most comprehensive, the most coordinated, and the most data-driven approach to public safety we've ever endeavored. I'm not here to tell you that we can flip a switch and see our public safety challenges disappear. I don't think that's true. I think we've been promised that far too much, and this is what, like I said, this is personal for me, so we're not going to accept shortcut answers, we're not going to accept oversimplified answers, not on something as important as crime, not on something as important as keeping our children safe. And the truth is, everything I'm telling you, we'll learn next year it didn't work the way we thought, and we'll have to continue growing it and continue evolving it and continue researching it and continue building the evidence. What I know is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We don't expect a different result if we do the same thing over and over again. We need a different result, which is why we are innovating on public safety and pushing forward. That's actually the centerpiece of what I'm looking forward to doing in the next couple of years. I wanted to ask Senator Murphy to share about the child safety net, because that's a critical, and all of this is connected.
And you know, one of the things that we're sick of is people having these conversations sort of separately, as though housing and education is different than public safety, as though public safety is different than our families being able to get a good job, as though getting a good job is different than immigration, where all of these things, we know the way our lives work out on a real day-to-day basis, all of these things are really the same thing that can either create a really positive momentum for our families and our children, or a really hard momentum for our families and our children. So thank you.
Thanks, sir. Before I moved to St. Paul, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Wisconsin. So before I lived here, I lived in a small community, a rural community, Marshfield, Wisconsin, 18,000 people with a great hospital. I worked in that hospital. And I remember a young woman, I didn't know her, but she was assaulted in her second floor apartment in that small community. She was badly beaten. She survived. And it rattled me in that small community, and for the first time really in my life, I lost that sense of safety in the place that I lived. And so I want to acknowledge that. When you lose it, it's terrible. And we need to work to restore that for people. Because, as I mentioned at the start of this, we've been through a lot in the last 19 months through this global pandemic, and I'm not surprised that we're seeing an increase across the country in violent crime. But it doesn't mean we can ignore it and hope that it goes away. And I really admire what Mayor Malvin Carter is talking about in terms of a broad community approach. I think well-resourced communities are likely to be safe communities. And I think we have to invest in ourselves, in our people, and in our communities to regain people's faith in safety, to make sure that people have opportunity so that they're not turning to something that is harmful for themselves and for one another. In terms of the safety net, and I'm really glad you brought that up, and racial disparities, which I am really glad you brought up. It's a question that I don't want to keep talking about. I want us to make progress in Minnesota and in this country, because if we look at what we know about Minnesota, whether it is in educational outcomes or health outcomes, in criminal justice, in housing, in earning, we experience some of the worst racial disparities in this state. And if we study our history in this country, we know the reasons why we have those disparities in place are because of the legacy of this country and because of things like white supremacy that have allowed us or allowed leaders in this country to set policies that make choices or deny choices to people based on the color of their skin. We have to fix that. We have to fix that in city zoning policy in terms of housing. We have to fix that in the way that we are educating our kids. We have to fix that in the hearts and the minds of healthcare providers who, in their implicit bias, are not paying enough attention to the people who are coming in for care, and things are being missed. And people are paying a price for that with their health and their life. I have faith that we can do it, but we can't wish it away. We have to work through a very, very hard conversation in this state, one that I think that many places in the state people are resisting. Last, that safety net. Yes, it is important that I work with my colleagues on the school board, my colleagues on the city council, the people on the Ramsey County board who have a tremendous reach in terms of federal funds that come into this state to support us and our kids, our families in housing and at the state level. And we have to work with our federal colleagues to make sure that that safety net is funded and it is a ladder up into the middle class where we can support ourselves with our work. That's why we have to get back to that, make sure we're raising the wages for people so that our work pays off. That's what everybody wants, right? We're gonna work, we're all industrious, we're gonna work, but that work should support us and our families and our lives. Safety net, until we get there, raise the wages so we can. Well-resourced communities are safe communities, and I think that should be our goal. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and discussing with us. I'm the secretary of Ethiopian community. The chairman is there. He has been working traveling from all over from the other corner of the city, or I mean the state, and tired, so he delegated me, so I'm speaking on behalf of him. I start by saying
one thing from the discussion. Wherever there is gun, there is violence. So, the very important thing that I think, because I feel it, I lost my child, I lost my son. The killers, the assassins are not found still up to date. He was found dead in the forest. So, what strikes me is who is owning gun? Is there a screening device? If there is a screening device, nobody can kill a person but protect oneself. So this has to be done. After that, what I say is about my community. Citizens of Ethiopian origin in Minnesota are estimated to be over 50,000. We have many churches, many mosques, and many small business organizations in the Twin Cities. However, our interconnection is loose. We aspire harmony in our diversity, since lack of a central forum has negatively affected our unity. The Ethiopian community in Minnesota has a life history of 45 years. 45 years. Although it has been registered as an institution since 1998, it does not have any center. It could not have a center that could bring these citizens together. This has negatively affected newcomers in their integration to the American way of life. It has negatively affected social benefits, deterred the youth from keeping their traditional values, history, heritages, and self-confidence in their identity as citizens of Ethiopian origin. The community seeks strong family cohesion. It seeks better health services, better education, and a place to demonstrate diversified cultural identity. Women had been trying to form associations in different neighborhoods, in small numbers, sometimes 5, sometimes 10. However, they could not get support and a centralized forum to advance their group efforts to their potentially achievable level. These hardworking and highly disciplined citizens have been going to polls and voted for candidates. However, that happened in a disorganized way, and lack of information, where one often went to polls without making sure who to vote for. Coming to a center could have created a better consciousness in applying one's civil rights. So, we are in severe condition, in need of a center. This center brings about unity in diversity, harmony, and strength, and self-confidence for the youth, for the community, so that it can be productive and help develop this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you for what you said. I'm sorry for your loss. And it picks up in the last conversation we were just having that we've suffered too many losses.
Earlier this month, we had a mass shooting in St. Paul, and we lost a young woman, and 15 other people were injured in gunfire, all just on one Saturday night, Sunday morning. If you want to drive a car in Minnesota, they test you, they want to know who you are. If you want to get a job, they do a background check. And we've been saying for literally over 10 years now in Minnesota that we ought to pass a law at the Capitol that just says exactly what you just said. That if you want to buy a gun, you have to get a background check. But what happens is this guy who can legally buy 33 guns, he gets a background check to go buy them at the store, but he can go in the neighborhood and sell 33 guns to whoever he wants without a background check because our laws don't cover that. And Senator Murphy and I have been testifying, we've been having press conferences, we've been having meetings like these, we've been doing organizing, and some of the folks on the other side of the aisle from Senator Murphy have blocked that work over and over and over again because the people who sell guns spend a lot of money. They have a lot of money to spend and they contribute a lot of money to politics. And I will tell you, we always see on the paper who shot a gun. And we even see on the paper who bought those 33 guns. But we never see on the newspaper who sold it to them. Who made a profit off of 33 guns coming into our community? Who got a promotion because 33 guns came into our community? Who went and bought a cabin because 33 guns were sold into our community without anybody being held accountable for it? And so I appreciate what you said. I'm as disgusted as you are by the fact that, that just seems like common sense, doesn't it? I'm as disgusted as you are that we can't even pass something just basic common sense like that in Minnesota. But it's one of the things that I want to tell you. Senator Murphy's voice in the Capitol really can't get any louder on this. She has been saying it, she's been yelling it, she's been in every microphone, she's been on the floor without a microphone yelling. Believe me, I've heard it. The only way for her voice in the Capitol to get louder is for us to be there with her. Is that right? It is for us to be there with her. And they know that we might be there Wednesday, and we might even stay till Thursday, but eventually we'll get tired. And they keep waiting us out. And I, like you, am sick of it. We bury too many of our young people. And that's one of the things when we talk about the work that we have to do that goes way beyond any election day. That's the type of work that I'd love to see us do together. I know you talked about the community center, and Senator Murphy talked about a community center as well. I grew up in the community center in my neighborhood, and so I always love having conversations about how people come together in community and do kind of what we're doing right now. So let's continue that conversation. I'll plug in with Senator Murphy on how we plug in with that conversation.
Thank you. I also want to say thank you for sharing your story, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And Mayor Carter is right. And the other thing we're right about is while there are people that are making money off of guns, and they're making money off the manufacture and the sale of guns, there are too many guns in our communities, our lives are more important than money, and our power together is stronger than that money. And we have to believe it, and then we have to put it to work, because we can change the law. But we haven't been able to do it yet. We need more of us that are willing to take up that fight. I want you to join me, join Mayor Carter, because I do believe we can, and our lives are worth it, our communities are worth it.
All right, because of time, we're gonna have 4 people who are gonna ask their questions. They're already in line. So what we're gonna do is they'll ask their questions, then you guys will answer everything together, and
Last time for voting time, I meet you 3 times with my daughter in the cold because I have issue for Ethiopian community. You promise us, you vote for you, you work for Ethiopian community or fix it. So after you got it now, Senator, congratulations. So still are you talking? I don't hear anything come up. So I need to hear about because I needed community for my kids to grow up. You need them. Here is culture. I need my kids to grow up in the community Ethiopia. You have different community in the city, but you guys support that. I know that, but still you need them. Is big country Ethiopia. You need them help with you guys. Help us. You need to have a community. And Mayor, thank you because I have 3 months ago, baby, I got a paper for scholar. So thank you for that. Do for work, but. For you, I support you in the court. I need Ethiopia community. That's why. Thank you. That's why I'm here today. I left my baby house. You need them Ethiopia community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Ross, and I am the Executive Director of House of Refuge Outreach here in St. Paul. And we're feeding 2,000 to 3,000 families every week, and it's around food insecurities, as well as feeding our children. So I want to know where can we get funding to continue to do the work that we're doing, so that we can continue to help the families. We are putting people in jobs. We're doing GED, back to education for families. So we need to know. We can hear there's all this money, and we just don't know where it is. And so as a community that continues to serve all people of color, we have a huge population of people of color that we're serving. So we want to know where we can go, what's the best resources. We're feeding 2,000 to 3,000 children every week, meals. And so we want to make sure that we can continue to do what we're doing. I thank you for your time, I think for being here, but we want to know where we can go and what we need to do in order to do that. Thank you.
እኔ ሲቲዝን ከወሰድኩ 4 ዓመት ነው ከወሰድኩት። አንድም ደብዳቤ የለኝም፣ አንድ ወረቀት የለኝም። ፈተና አልፋል ተባለ። ከዛ በኋላ እኔ ተስፋ ምንድነው እያ ብዙ ጊዜ ጠይቃለሁ። አንድም ምላሽ የለኝም እና እነሱን በማግኘቴ በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል። ለዚህ ጉዳይ ምናልባት መፍትሄ የሚኖር ከሆነ መፍትሄውን እንደ ገቨርንመንቱም እንደ ስቴቱም መፍትሄ እንዲፈልግልኝ ነው እኔ የሚጠይቀው ያንን ነው እንግዲህ እግዚአብሔር ይባርክ።
So what he said is I become a citizen and I have not received any paper or any document to prove that I'm a citizen. So how do I go by to get this information?
Yes.
Everyone has been talking about community, right? The lack of the community being there. And to my question, I think a community would help. I just had to throw it out there just because everything. So one of the driving forces that pushes us to migrate to the United States is to provide a better life for our kids, to provide better opportunity for our kids. That's what I see every Ethiopian parent say. So I guess my question is, what programs or what is in the pipeline to help those individuals have the proper opportunity and equal opportunity and, to reach their full potential? Yeah, that's it.
So, first and foremost, for you who have not yet gotten your papers, if I can get your contact information, I think we need to get you in contact with our federal senators and with Representative Betty McCollum. Their offices do the casework on immigration. Our offices don't, but I can get you connected to them so we can track that down so you have your papers. For you and your community center, I have not forgotten. Dave Pinto has done some work on it. And there are some barriers that are, I think, rooted in the community, but I have not forgotten. Thank you for supporting me. And let us, you and I, talk before I go so we get connected, so you don't think I'm walking away and not paying attention, because that is a terrible thing and I don't want you to feel like that, and I'm sorry that you do. And Mayor Carter is going to help us too. We're going to get it done.
Yep, and we'll help get that done. Sharon,
Like, the work that she is doing is just so important. And it's so incredible. And it's one of those things where, you know, you find that, you know, there are people who wait until they get the grants and wait until the money's all there and then say, you know, after this or after that, then we'll start helping people. And there are people who just start helping people. And, you know, you find you can do so much when we just say, you know, let's use what we have, how we have it, and just do what we can. And just for all of the people who are involved in the work that you're doing, it's so beautiful and so incredible. Yes, please give her a round of applause. And it's obvious because you didn't need an introduction in this space, because folks know the work that you're doing, and folks all over our community are talking about the work that you're doing. So I'd like to do, we talked about me coming and doing a site visit. I'd like to do that site visit really soon, and so that we can kind of have that conversation. I too keep hearing about a whole bunch of money and I'm wondering where it is. But let's have that conversation because I want to think about how we do that. We do have an investment from the federal government. The city has a significant investment, which, you know, you start trying to spread any amount of money among the city of 300,000 people, you find out how little it really is. But there is an opportunity for us to invest in food supports, in housing supports, in job supports, all of the types of things that you're talking about. And those are the kind of core focuses that we've already addressed. And so let's stay connected where that is. To the question about our young people, that's what excites me the absolute most. In the last 4 years, I've been mayor for 4 years, we launched our college savings account. I'm so glad to hear that your baby's a college bound baby. And you know, we're the first city in the country, and I want you to know that we've done it with the support of our legislative delegation as well. We're the first city in the country to say we're gonna have college savings accounts that have universal automatic enrollment at birth. And what that means ultimately is, in St. Paul, if you have a baby in St. Paul and you don't want your child to have a college savings account, there's paperwork to fill out. Because we want every single child in our community to have a... So we've created our college savings accounts. We eliminated late fines in our public library so that all of our children can afford to use the library. We've doubled funding for youth jobs in our community. We've tripled funding for free after-school programs. And we're just going to continue to invest and invest and invest and invest and invest in our communities. We've built our guaranteed income pilot program that I was telling you guys about that's focused on families with young children. We've built our Families First rent supports, like I said, that's focused on families with school-aged children. And we are literally going all in. And I'll tell you, don't tell anybody this yet because it's not public yet, so shh. But we're going to propose a major investment in youth jobs very soon as well. We've already doubled our youth jobs funding, and we're going to propose an even more major investment in youth jobs to make sure young people in our community can live with dignity in our community here every single day as far as we go. And so this has been a central piece of the work that where's the gentleman who asked about youth, about young people? Right here. Oh, there he is. He went all the way around the room on me. I'm like looking for you. I'm like, I don't know where he went. But that's the centerpiece. That's the centerpiece. And I'll tell you, one of the things that people say about me is, oh, he only cares about young people. And one of the things that I've learned is, and I'm a parent, and I was telling one of my daughters the other day, I said, you're smarter than me. And she said, I'm not smarter than you. You're smart too, Dad. And I said, oh no, I'm pretty smart, but the most important thing that I can do with my entire life is make sure that you're smarter than me. And I don't know anything more important than we could do. I don't know anything more important we could put our money into, that we could put our energy into, that we could put our policies into, that we could put our heart into, than making sure that our young people are prepared for a really bright future. And that's going to continue to be the centerpiece of all of the work that we're doing, is making sure our young people can be really excited about the future in front of them. And here's the last thing I'll say about this, the college savings account. It's $50 for college. I was on a comedy show last summer, and the host, the comedian, goes, $50 for college, huh? That might not be enough. And everybody started laughing. But here's the thing, research says that children from low and moderate income families who graduate from high school with literally more than $1 set aside in college savings accounts are 3 times more likely to go to college. And when they do, they're 4 times more likely to graduate. So what that says to me is this. There are young people born in our city every day for whom high school graduation looks like a finish line. And $50 may not pay for a whole college tuition, but it's enough to just get us started casting our imagination for our children, just past that finish line. And if we can do that in our community, if we can really be a community that knows every single one of these college-bound babies can be an engineer, can be a teacher, can be a painter, can be an electrician, can be the mayor, can be the state senator. If we really, 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 really believe that, then I think just our belief alone can make the whole future for our city, the whole future for our state fundamentally different, because we'll invest in our children. We'll double down on our children. We will make sure they have every single thing, and not just our, those children who we think are but all of our children, and all of our families, and all of our neighborhoods, who speak all of our languages, who practice all of our cultures, who practice all of our religions, and we'll know that they together will forge the future for our community. So that's the underlying premise of our community. And I just want to say this last thing, and I'll give it to the senator and let you guys go, is this. The reason we've been able to do so many things in St. Paul over the last 4 years, or a really relatively short amount of time, and the reason is not me. I've been bragging on a bunch of work, but it would be dishonest if I try to leave here and pretend it's because of me. It's because of the way so many of our community members have plugged in and said, this is our community and we're gonna build it forward. It's because when we said, we gotta figure out how to build a cabinet, 300 people stepped forward and said, let me help you with your community-based hiring panels. It's because when we said, we want to reapproach our community public safety perspectives, that 2,000 people from this community said, we want to help with that. It's because every time we set up a budget that people step forward, hundreds of people step forward and say, let me see how the numbers work. It's because of the way people plug in. I appoint people to task forces and commissions all across this city. We have committees and special kind of commissions that we have to study housing or public safety or minimum wage or college savings accounts or whatever it is. We hire folks in our community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just speaking to a group of young people today, and I told them, listen, the truth is, I'm going to try to speak up for you as much as I can, but the truth is, if you don't speak up, your voice won't be heard. And so I want to invite you all to apply for a task force or a commission. I want to invite you all to jump in on those budget games that we do. I want to invite you all to come and be a part of the governance process. Because let me tell you, whether you're Oromo, Ethiopian, whatever community that you come from, the best way for me to make sure that the stuff that we do in City Hall benefits you and benefits your community, benefits all of our communities together, is by getting out the way and inviting you to come and do it with us. And that's our invitation. That's what I'd love to invite you all to do. That's why I'm excited to be here today and appreciative of all of this.
So I serve on the Agriculture Committee in the Minnesota Senate, and found myself leading the fight against a recalcitrant majority led by the Republicans, not to get too partisan here, on funding for food. We know that there are a lot of people that are living in the state right now that are food insecure. We fought a hard and good fight to make sure that more money went to Second Harvest Heartland, that more money went to market bucks, that more money went into services that feed people. Thank you for your work. I am with you. And to the money, because it's been mentioned a couple of times. There's a lot of money in this country. It's held by too few people. So we got to change that by changing the tax code. We got to make sure that we're investing in us. There's $1.2 billion that came to the state because of the federal government that's just sitting and waiting for us to invest in Minnesotans. And I want to invest in us to make sure that all of us have what we need in our schools, in food, in housing, in safety, so that we can go about our lives. That we can do together. Just like Mayor Carter said, that we can do together. And I don't want to be hopeless tonight. I get angry sometimes at a party who chooses to use their power to obstruct, to disrupt, to create chaos, because that helps them to say government's no good. I actually believe a functioning government serves us. It should serve us. Our politics should be for us, about our future, all of us. And that's what I want to build. That's what I am building. And I hope if you believe in that too, that you will join me, because I need your voices to drum out the cynical voices that are holding power right now. Because the future that we want to build is ours, and I know that we can get there together. Thank you very much for having us tonight. It's absolutely delightful to be with you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to set this mic down.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming. We're over the time, so I appreciate everybody for being here. There's food, and I want you guys to clap for everybody for coming here. Thank you all. The main discussion is about civic engagement. So after listening and having these dialogues, we have to take action. And the important thing is for us to go out and vote, know who we're voting for, and the issues that are important to us. Thank you so much.